Hey, water's not wet. My name is Funny Man, and welcome back to another episode of Crashout on the Cashout. This is the series where we load up some Cashout, pick a topic that's going on inside or outside the finals, have a discussion about it, and yell at anybody that interrupts our discussion by killing us in the game. No further explanation needed, I hope. Now, there are two big things going on in the finals community right now that have brought a lot of attention to themselves. One of those things I will not touch with a 30-foot fucking pole. The other is the developer AMA that they had over the past week with Oscar and one of the other developers. I don't know his name off the top of my head. But basically, they were taking questions on Reddit about respec order, about the melee rework, about everything, and they had some discussions. Those discussions did not instill confidence. So during the AMA stream, the developer picked a question off of Reddit that was about the melee rework that's going to be coming supposedly in Season 11, and the developer decided to take that moment to start talking about the philosophy of melee.
I want to talk maybe a bit about the philosophy of it.
The philosophy of melee.
So we don't know right now what the exact solution is. Yeah.
What do you mean you don't know what you want to do? The rework is next season. You're out of time. Like, it'd be one thing if this was supposed to be something we were getting in like 3 or 4 seasons, but they have it on the roadmap to be next season's big piece of content. So you mean to tell me that you have no idea what your big piece of content for next season is looking like? So they decided to expand a little more on that and say that they don't really know what the gameplay loop looks like when it comes to melee users. They start off by using an example of a shotgun user versus like a sniper user.
During a 1v1 gunfight, a shotgun user versus a sniper user, the shotgun user is trying to get maybe across a 50-meter open space, using cover to close distance on the sniper.
Yeah.
And the sniper knows the shotgun player is trying to do that, and they're trying to stay away from the shotgun user, keep distance, keep long lines of sight.
To that I say, no shit, the sniper is gonna do better at long range, and the fucking shotgun is gonna fuck at short range. Like, yes, thank you for reinforcing the concept of different weapons are better at different ranges. Like, we didn't already get that. But no, then they go ahead and they get into how they never really defined a melee versus melee user combat loop.
We've never really defined what a melee combat loop looks like.
To give credit where credit is due, I can see what they're getting at with they've never really defined how melee users should be fighting each other. A lot of times, melee just kind of ends up being a left-click simulator no matter what melee weapon you're using. Unless you're using the sledge, of course, then it turns into a right-click simulator because there's almost no reason to use the left-click on the sledge. But then they say this.
We've never really defined what a melee combat loop looks like, those two 1v1, or a melee versus ranged user.
Right.
The f*** you mean you've never defined a melee versus ranged combat loop? You just did it there with the shotguns!
Trying to get maybe across a 50-meter open space, using cover to close distance on the sniper.
Oh, I lit his ass up. Okay, 8-0 with the dual swords is kind of nutty, you gotta admit. Melee users and shotgun users have basically the same effective range, minus a little bit from the melee users. So if you can perfectly define the combat loop for a shotgun versus a sniper rifle, you can adequately describe it for a melee weapon versus any ranged weapon, period. After they're done being confused about what constitutes a melee combat loop, they then go on to say this.
How does a gun player get to fight back in a way that feels fair against a melee user when the melee user gets on top of them?
Oh no, I just died in my video game. But it's okay. They shot me from a range where they practically mailed me the bullet. Not like using a melee weapon. Oh no, that would make me so irrationally angry I might just crash out while I play this Cashout.
He said it! He said it!
So you say you want ways for a ranged weapon user to be able to effectively fight back against melee? They already have it. It's called keeping your fucking distance. Yeah, not today, buddy. Keeping your distance is literally the best counter to a melee weapon in any game whatsoever. Like, it is 100% effective. If they can't get close to you, you don't die. Yo, the pink team has tried to fight us 3 fucking times and they've gotten absolutely wrecked every time. Like, they should probably go fight someone else. With the addition of the shockwave to the medium class, every single class in the game has a way to fight back against melee. Lights have always had the grappling hook and the dash, so they've never had a problem getting away from melee users. Not to mention the fact that their base speed is basically just slightly slower than a crack lion. Oh, and speaking of heavies like the one I just killed, heavies have always had higher health and more ability to deal with melee users than any other class in the game has. They can straight up just tank the damage most of the time. The one exception to this is the dagger, of course, but we'll talk about that in a bit. But after they start talking about how unfair melee feels a lot of times, they then start talking about skill.
How does the melee user get payoff for having closed distance in a really skillful way? How else can they close distance so that is a skill in its own right?
The only class that doesn't really have a good way to move with melee is the heavy class. Closing the gap for a melee heavy user is basically a game of, do I use the winch claw, the goo gun, or the lock bolt? And you see what they're trying to do with the goo nerfs, just trying to completely eliminate your ability to use it as a tool for melee weapons. So, you know, maybe you use the grav cube if you're a beast and you've put the time in with it, you know, kind of like how I have. Light has never had a problem catching up to people or staying away from them. Medium with the shockwave has never been in a better position to be a melee user. And if we're talking about just countering melee, medium has the Cerberus. Like, honestly, after the recent buffs they've given it and with the addition of the shockwave, I think the Cerb is back to being a top 5 gun in this game. So enjoy it while you can. Then they get into a side conversation about specializations.
The foundation of that combat loop, you do little specializations for different weapons and different items that make them distinct from each other.
Like we've been saying, medium is now fully viable with melee because of the shockwave. Light has always had the dash. The only class that has really been kind of starving for ways to be good with their melee is the heavy class, because they rely very heavily on the winch. So you end up in a situation where anytime you nerf the winch, which it absolutely does need to be brought in line, even after all the nerfs that they've given it, the winch is still the single most impactful specialization on heavy, and that's why it keeps getting used. You know, and like I said, nerfing the goo gun does not help that equation at all. If you take the goo stun away completely, you just disincentivize any melee user from using anything but the winch claw ever again. You know, you say that you want balance in the game and that you don't want something to be so impactful that it's a must pick, but then you take away objects in the game or nerf their capabilities to actively spice up your loadout just because you didn't intend for that to be there, so instead of letting something just be a happy accident, you'd rather it gets aborted. 22-2. That is fucking nutty, yo. Oh, and don't even get me fucking started on what they came out with next.
If I asked a bunch of players right now, I'm sure a bunch of them would tell me that melee doesn't belong in a shooting game.
Why the fuck not? Calming down from the crashing out for a second, okay? I'm gonna speak directly to the people that think that the finals should not have melee as primary weapons in the game, okay? And I'm gonna sincerely ask you this question, okay? Why? Give me one good, well thought out reason as to why this game should not have melee in it. Call of Duty has had melee weapons in every single release for the past 10 years or so. Sure, it's kind of brainless, just, you know, click left, one hit and you kill people. Call of Duty's melee gameplay loop fucking sucks rocks, dude. I'm not even gonna deny it. It's not well thought out, but it's still there, and a lot of people still like using it. If we want to talk about other classics, Halo has always had the energy sword and the grav hammer in the game, and you don't hear people bitching about those. The point of the grav hammer and the energy sword is to punish you for getting too close to somebody. And I'll give you a little hint, unless you have an overshield specifically in Halo, those weapons are always one-hit kills. Just imagine if a sword user was always a one-hit kill on you. imagine how pissed you'd be. A lot of people like to complain about the dagger too, but just case in point for myself here, hitting someone in the back with a melee has been a one-hit kill in most first-person shooters for a long time. Halo Reach was the first game to have assassinations in it and give some style to getting behind someone and poking them in the butt. And then Call of Duty adopted it and bastardized the whole fucking thing, but yeah. But even before assassinations, you would always get a back whack on someone, a one-hit kill to the behind since Halo 2. Like, that feature is just a mainstay of first-person shooters no matter where you go, and the only difference is that in the finals, you have to dedicate your whole playstyle to it if you want to be able to do it. Real talk, if you want to go play a first-person shooter without melee, then go play Counter-Strike. Go play Val. You get what I'm saying here? Every single shooter has melee implemented it into some form or another. So for people to say that melee just doesn't belong in the finals is, I'm sorry, but it's just ignorant. This game does melee combat a hell of a lot better than 90% of the first-person shooters on the market. And yes, it could absolutely be better, and it needs to be better. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't belong because it isn't perfect already. Thank you for that. As much as I love the finals, they're not reinventing the wheel here. They're just taking something that's been present in a lot of other shooters and refining it into its own unique thing for us to all enjoy. And look, melee is some of the most fun that I have in this game. I mean, hell, I'm even loving the dual swords right now. And if any of you saw I taught myself how to use the dual blades so you don't have to back in season 7, you would never in your life think that I would come back to these things and have fun with them. But I'm having a fucking blast. But unfortunately, it seems to me like Embark really doesn't want there to be any kind of skill expression with melee especially, when they start going and saying shit like this.
And then some people that use melee are like, dude, I have to try so much, I have to learn all these bits of... Yeah, to be honest, we don't really want those, exploits to be in the game. Yeah.
So you're saying that you want the melee loop to be as brainless as it is in Call of Duty. Is that what you're saying?
You end up in this position that you're just getting, like, somebody appeared out of nowhere, they're on top of you, and just mash, right? That's not fun for the victim, and it's not really a huge amount of fun for the melee user necessarily if it's just spamming the button.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you over this last clip where you literally just said you don't want melee to be a left-click simulator. Okay, from now on, guys, no more calling things tech, okay? Clearly, we're gonna have to be some smooth criminals about this shit, and we're gonna have to start calling it by its government name, technique. If we start calling things techniques, will Embark stop nerfing them out of the fucking game?
We want to get to a place where it is very much the gun user goes, yeah, that was totally fair. That guy did the right thing, they closed in and they killed me. And the same for the melee user when they face another melee user or a gun user or those kind of things.
I'm sorry. Did you just say that you wanted gamers to have rational reactions to dying in game? Like, bruh, do you even know what industry you're a part of? Look, even when a fight is completely fair against two people using like basic run-of-the-mill shit, they're still gonna yell and fucking scream at each other that, that was unfair. You caught me off guard. You're cheating. You're using exploits and all that bullshit. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? That kind of level-headedness is never there, even amongst fucking pro players. And you mean to tell me you want melee and ranged users to all gentlemen's agree to not scream at each other when one dies? Not happening. Look, melee as it is will never feel like a 100% totally fair thing because of the ambush playstyle that melee tends to gravitate towards. You don't become a good melee user by just running straight at someone, even if you are using the fucking dual swords. You have to use cover, you have to sneak around, you have to jump out and fucking attack someone when they're not looking. And yeah, that shit doesn't feel fair a lot of the time, but it's how you play melee. But no, and then on top of that, they started saying some whack shit about like the problematic guns or the guns that need to get reworked,
Cowhawk wants to know if there's any weapons or gadgets that we have a problematic design that might need a rework instead of balance changes. And also when do we get throwing the spears and alternative fire?
I mean, the spear is one of those weapons. It's quite difficult right now to make it kind of stand out and feel decent.
For the love of God, just let me cancel the spin. Like, seriously, it's not like everybody hasn't been yelling the same thing at you since you released the spear and it kind of sucked. Just let us cancel the spin. Maybe let the spin be a little faster, but that's all the goddamn spear needs. You know, and also, I'm sorry, but the resident spear god of this side of the finals YouTube space did kind of make a video about how to do some pretty cool shit with the spear and be good with it. So, hey, maybe someone should show the devs my video because, hey, at least it would teach them how to play their own fucking weapon. Wait, scratch that, never mind. I did show you how to use the spin attack over the top of barricades, so, maybe skip that part if anybody shows the developers that video. No, but then they start talking about problematic weapons, and then they start talking about the SH-1900.
Problematic ones right now as well. The SH-1900 on the light.
The good old double barrel.
Yeah.
No shit, the double barrel's a problem. Everybody has been yelling about it since it released.
And this is similar, I think, with the dagger as well, and the backstab on the dagger. Yeah. You know, that can feel really cheap to the victim sometimes, even if the effort for the user, the player using the dagger to get close to them was quite considerable.
Okay, we just talked about this. Backstabbing has been a mechanic in many first-person shooters. The difference is that in the finals, you have to dedicate your whole playstyle to it. Otherwise, you can't do it. The trade-off that you make with the dagger to be able to get those insta-back shots with people, phrasing, is that is the only thing you can reliably do. Otherwise, you're just kind of stuck slashing at them with a butter knife. And since you're a one-trick pony, you're pretty fucking predictable, and you're pretty vulnerable too, considering that you have to use it on light, the squishiest class in the whole game. Like, I swear, if you take away the dagger's backstab, you will gut that weapon into the ground and nobody will ever use it again. You know, yeah, it sucks to die to the dagger. It really does. But as we just discussed, who the hell likes dying in video games? You know, I do hate when I get backstabbed with the dagger, but I also hate when I get hit with the double barrel. I also hate when I get hit with the Serb or the model or any other fucking gun in this game. I just hate dying. But you don't see me over here going, oh no, remove every gun in the game that I die to. It's horrible. So, okay, we've spent this whole time talking about how they really don't know what they want to do with the melee rework, and nothing that they said during that AMA instills any kind of confidence in their rework that they're working on. But what does a good melee rework actually look like? Well, for starters, you're gonna need to fix the fucking hitboxes for like every single melee weapon. Cough, riot shield, cough. There are so many times that with a melee weapon, try to just swing on someone and you just end up not getting them. So the hitboxes are gonna need a little bit of tinkering with to make them feel more fair for all the melee weapons. But in terms of features, there's one thing that really stands out to me as something that has a lot of potential to be really cool for melee weapons, and that is the reload button. The reload button is currently useless whenever you have a melee weapon equipped, and I think that's just the perfect opportunity to go ahead and, I don't know, maybe add another stance in there. Okay, could we get like an alternate stance system for melee weapons in the game? Maybe in one stance you're a little faster but you deal a little less damage, or in the other stance you deal more damage but you're a bit slower. You know, I could see that working out really well for certain melee weapons. Some people would absolutely scream at the fucking sun about it, but they already do with the current melee weapon system, so f it. Why not just make it more fun? Or if that idea is maybe a little bit too lofty, maybe, you know, we could sheath our weapons by hitting the reload button, you know, put our melee weapons away and have a little bit more speed on us, but we can't attack at all, and we have to fully unsheath those weapons in order to be able to do any damage. I could see that being a pretty interesting idea. Or if we want to just dumb it down a bit, we could just use the reload button for maybe an alternate attack or something. I've been racking my brain trying to think of what they could actually do for the melee rework, and this is one of those situations where I really don't have any good ideas. So I guess let me know down in the comments if you can think of something good that they might end up doing with the melee rework. Otherwise, we're just gonna have to await with bated breath and hope that they don't completely kill melee. I mean, truth be told, the best rework that they could give us for melee in Season 11 is a rework of their attitude towards it. Look, they need to respect the fact that melee is supposed to be scary and deadly at vasectomy range, and completely useless outside of that. Because let's face it, if melee's not good at melee range, then why would you ever use a melee weapon? And please, for the love of God, do not make me throw the spear. But anywho, that is going to wrap it up for today's episode of Crashout on the Cashout. Thank you guys so much for watching. Big shout out to our comedy club members. It's your boy Jesse011, Fatal Sky 09, Boom 32, Layla Bell 1029, Fatso Aim, Real Call Me Crop, Gooby 1024, Hobo Haster, Maya Todorova 9741, Kevin Reglado 1117, and The Tree, who all got 2-day early access to this video for being members of the Comedy Club. If you're enjoying the channel and would like to become a member of the Comedy Club, be sure to click that join button down below. Thank you guys again so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next episode. Monopoly Man says bye-bye.